Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome. It's FBC Radio Live's Tuesday, September 26th. And guess what? 3 weeks done and over with. In the books. We're moving on. Week 4, John. And I think, Bengals fans can probably rest a little easier tonight. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but a win's a win, and they're not 0-3. And I think the Eagles are a very good team, and the scary part is I just don't feel like they're necessarily playing at their peak, and most notably on offense. And again, that's a scary thing to think when the Eagles are sitting there 3-0, something that's not generally done, John, by teams that lose the Super Bowl the previous season. So pretty entertaining Monday night, John.
Yeah, I mean, you had, teams that were fighting for position. Cincinnati needed that win. You don't want to get to 0-3, especially in a division where the other three teams in your division are 2-1, and you're already 0-2 in the division. So that was essential that they won. And Burrow just doesn't look right. I mean, he was able to do what he had to do, but he doesn't look right. And I don't know if he's going to look right all season, because the only way to get that cap healthier, maybe not totally healthy, but healthier, is with rest. So can they afford to do that? It's one of those injuries that will linger throughout the season. He's just going to have to manage pain, discomfort, what have you. Their defense is good, so they can rely on that. They can run the football, so they have a nice team around him, so they don't have to put it all on him. But, they're going to have to start stockpiling some wins here, because that division is very, very tough. And like you said about Philadelphia, Ian, the more I watch the Eagles, I don't know if they're the most talented roster in the NFL, but I will tell you this: they dominate the line of scrimmage more than any other team in football. Their offensive and defensive lines, you can make a case, are the two best in all of football. They're always going to be in games. Even looking at last year, the games they lost, they were right there because their offensive and defensive lines are that good.
Yeah, and again, I mean, we see it each and every week. Just if you dominate the lines, you're going to be in a pretty good position to win. And last night, I look, I mean, I'm looking at the highlights right now to my left, but the Buccaneers were surprising, the first couple weeks, no doubt about it. But you kind of, and I said this going into the season, you're going to have moments where you're going to get some great play from Baker Mayfield. He's going to inspire you. He's going to make some nice runs. They have some talent, no doubt about it. But ultimately, it's just not going to be something he can sustain all season. And we saw it last night, a really, really bad interception. Not the strongest of games, the fumble, obviously. And then just, again, it just, unfortunately for the Buccaneers, I just don't know if they have, even in this watered down NFC South, that, again, still has some teams that are winning some football games, but it's still watered down. And I think ultimately it's going to shake out. And maybe the first couple of weeks were more of a mirage than anything. But just unfortunate for the Buccaneers. A big opportunity last night, I think, to really come out and kind of make a statement that they're, there to be taken more seriously. But I think it kind of just reaffirmed what we thought going in. They're going to win some games. They're going to look good at times, but ultimately they're going to go only as far as their quarterback. And this isn't, look, it's not meant as some like piling on of Baker Mayfield. It's just reality, John. It's based on his career so far in the NFL. And I know they highlighted it last night. I mean, he's had 6 different head coaches in the last 5 years. That doesn't even seem possible. He's 7 different coordinators. So he's certainly not working at an advantage. But again, a lot of the mistakes that he makes are more instinctual or lack thereof, so to speak, where, the play starts to break down and you can see him in the pocket just sort of panic. And you can see it, his body language. It's not hard to miss. And again, it's generally just how it goes. And you can't win a lot of football games playing that type of football. I mean, you have to have better quarterback play to win consistently in this league. And look, like I said, Tampa's going to have some fun moments throughout the season. They're going to have some highlights, like Mike Evans' one-handed grab last night was pretty awesome. Terrible pass. I mean, it was high. It was behind him, sort of, and Mike Evans had to go up and get it. And and it's but it's still it's a cool cool looking catch and everything like that. But I think that's about the extent of what you're going to get from the Buccaneers this season.
Yeah, there's like a lot of teams in the league, right? Like some weeks.
Sure, no, yeah, they're not. Bad. Yeah, there's a lot of teams like that.
Look at what we've seen so far. Yeah, look at what we've seen so far. You got 3 undefeated teams: Philadelphia, San Francisco, Miami, and only 3 winless teams: Denver, Chicago, who by the way play each other this week, and also Carolina. So you got like 26 teams that are 1-2 or 2-1, and they've looked impressive at times, and they've looked god awful at times. And yeah, Baker to me is a low-level starter, high-level backup type quarterback, and there's a bunch of those guys in the league. And, you're going to have some nice games with him. You're going to have some poor games with him. I will tell you the one team that's rooting against Tampa Bay this year is Kansas City, because if Tampa Bay starts to go on a long losing streak, they're probably going to move Mike Evans, and I would think Kansas City would jump at that opportunity to add Mike Evans to their roster.
Yeah, I don't know if they have the money to do it, though. I mean...
they could get creative and do it. Again, if it's only half a season, so it's half the contract for that year, so you can kind of work around that a little bit. But I would think Kansas City looks and says, "Man, if we can get a high-end receiver, then we become the favorites to win the Super Bowl again." And again, that's more mid-season or whatever the trade deadline is, which I think is the end of October. So things could kind of be worked out, I guess. With the money, but. Or at least some receiver that will help them. But yeah, Tampa got off to a nice start, but Philadelphia is just a team that, because of their dominance on both lines of scrimmage, are just going to beat teams like that pretty handily. I mean, they, like you said, they don't even look good on offense yet. They win over 400 yards, but they kind of stall in the red zone from time to time. And Jalen Hurts had a middling night. He made some really nice passes and some questionable ones, but they're just that good.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. We're basing it off the expectation that eventually Jalen Hurts is going to look far more like the player that we saw last year, that for a while was an MVP favorite. So, and that's a reasonable expectation. I mean, there's no reason not to, excuse me, not to doubt that. Through 3 weeks. I mean, great, really good quarterback struggle too. Did you know that Patrick Mahomes and Russell Wilson have essentially the same exact stat line? I bet you didn't.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
No, I didn't. But Russell Wilson has not been the problem in Denver.
No, I mean, trust me, I'd be pointing it out. I did not take an opportunity not to point out his poor play last year. I mean, again, I think he's played well, of course. But again, I still don't believe that he's anything more than no, he's not Baker Mayfield. No, not at all. But I think he's a higher level starter, like a mid-level starter. You know what I mean? Higher than that, kind of top 10-ish, fringe, maybe top 15, that type of thing. And,
there's a bunch of those guys in the league.
Sure.
Probably like 8, 10, 12 of them. Mac Jones is in there.
Yep.
You still have to put Trevor Lawrence in there because he still hasn't proven himself, although I think he will at some point. But yeah, I mean, Kirk Cousins is a little better than those guys. I think he's probably at the higher end of that group. But, there's only so many elite quarterbacks in the league. And right now, Russell Wilson's not one of them.
No, but for him, he's certainly not the problem. And, well, when your team gives up 70 points, I mean, trust me, your quarterback is not the issue in this.
You realize, Ian, in the first 3 weeks of the season, right? Obviously, Miami scored 70 points on Sunday. 18 teams so far this year have not scored 70 points.
That's crazy.
Isn't it? And last night, 4 teams played. They combined for 71 points. And the Dolphins had 70 on Sunday. That number is just like blows my mind. I mean, remember when the Patriots scored 59 against Tennessee, like you talked about? That was like, wow, that's incredible. Like I didn't think there was enough time to score 70 points in a football game, more than a point a minute.
Well, generally what happens is, and Miami obviously took a lot of their starters out, but there was non-existent defense by Denver. I mean, like, this wasn't just bad defense. I mean, we watched like someone shared a still frame of one shot where I think it was Mostert was running and every defender was on the ground. It was like, what? and it's like those last couple of touchdowns, especially that rushing one, where it's just like, I mean, again, I keep saying it's like it's playing like all rookie on Madden, where it's not even competitive because it's just okay. You run a little counter to the left, and there you go. You're going to hit that gap every single time. And so generally, teams, because okay, you go to that 59-0 game. We mentioned that because, again, I mean, that was just a game that obviously we both watched and have relived many times, I'm sure. That's a perfect example of, oh my God, the Patriots could have scored 80 points if they wanted to. I'm pretty sure they took Brady out late in the third quarter in that game, and just, you know what I mean? He didn't do a thing in the fourth, and well, I mean, the guy threw 5 touchdowns in a single quarter. Again, the fact that he didn't tie the touchdown record at 7 is astonishing to me. You know what I mean? At the time, and so generally most teams, if you're going to score this many points, yeah, you're generally not going to have enough time in the game to get to 70. But a lot of that's also because at least the other team is still playing somewhat of a defense, and Denver just wasn't. I mean, it was, and of course, I mean, here's the thing too, John. You have to also allow quick scores like Miami did in some instances that gave them extra opportunities. And of course, I mean, when it's a time game. So if you're shutting out the team, yeah, generally they're probably not going on long sustained drives, but you're not getting also a lot of bang opportunities probably to score by, the other team scoring quickly, that type of thing, where, we see just teams go back and forth. So I don't know. It was crazy. Like I said, I wish they would have just go for it, go for the points. I am not one that's going to sit here and complain about any team running up the score. It's the NFL, John. Come on.
Especially against Sean Payton, right?
Yeah,
my
exactly.
Question is, did those guys on defense just quit? Which I would assume they did, and that's an awful sign for Sean Payton. This is his third game in his first year with a big contract to try to, shake things up in Denver and get them on their winning ways. And it's just getting worse and worse and worse. But they play the Bears this week, which there's a game that should end in a tie, right? I mean, that would be perfect.
0-0 by my estimation.
0-0 tie, yeah. Big defensive effort by the Broncos against the Bears.
Yeah. Well, look, we'll see what happens. Justin Fields might be a must play if that's the case. I mean, hell, 70 points, and that's the crazy thing, John, and 70 points. 70 points. So you have back-to-back games where you put up 35. That's impressive.
Yeah.
Like the best teams in this league average, not each and every, I'm saying the greatest teams of all time, you're talking 33 to 36 points per game. That's kind of the range. And I'm just going off the top of my head based on just memory or whatever, but that's sort of the range. I think the Patriots are still number 1, right? In 07?
No, Denver.
Oh, right. Yeah, I mean,
but they're both in
I think
35-point range.
Yeah, I think the Patriots have I think they have something like the best. It was like the best points per drive or scoring percentage, because at one point in 2007, and this was just absurd. They had more touchdowns, I think, than, I don't know. I'll have to look this up. I mean, there's
probably been punts. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there are so many just incredible stats, about that season, which unfortunately people like me kind of have to live on because we all know the end of it and we can't live off that. Sucks. I hate it.
Same thing with the 2013 Broncos, right? Set all these records and then got blown out in the Super Bowl against Seattle. So, these high-scoring teams oftentimes, won Rams.
Yeah, sure.
At that point, the most prolific scoring team, the 98 Vikings, like all these teams that set records. The Packers, I think, in 2020 and in 2011 put up like 33 a game, and neither one of them won the Super Bowl. It's great to score those points, but you can also follow up in the postseason.
Oh, sure. But I think, unfortunately, people use that to kind of, and I every chance I get, I kind of push back at the defense wins championship things. It's like, people, they'll use that, be like, oh, see, these great well, they get to the Super Bowl. Okay. Like, relax. They lost the Super Bowl. It doesn't mean that high scoring offense and loading up that way doesn't work. And I think the further we get, into this era of football. I mean, that's the thing too, John. I mean, someone posted something online about having like cyborg quarterbacks now. That's what I think. That's what really gets me is the catch words, the buzzwords, all these like just pointless adjectives. Like they really mean nothing. Like someone was arguing with me about out of structure plays, and I'm like, what are you talking about? What are out of structure plays? And basically, it's a long-winded way of saying, oh, this person likes to make plays outside the pocket. Oh, okay, that's a trait, but like it seems to be used to exaggerate certain things, John. And again, I just we look at the way defenses are handicapped in this league in terms of how they can cover, how they can hit, how they can tackle, and you couple that with essentially just I'm not poor officiating, yes, but I can't fully blame the officials because, well, it's kind of hard to follow all these rules in the NFL to begin with. But I think it creates like these situations where you can just score at will. I mean, we saw that game, the Rams in Kansas City in 2018, and we both sat here and said, like, look, I mean, it's a lot of points, but people were like, oh, this is the greatest game ever. And it's like, there's no defense. Like, it doesn't mean like high scoring games are bad or boring. No, but like when you're just going back and forth down the field with like really no resistance, and we see that a lot, John, and it's kind of like, okay, like it's a great play, but like where's the tackling? Where's the, so who knows, John? Maybe we're going to get more of these 70-point games, and maybe we're going to get more of these mediocre quarterbacks that look like quote unquote cyborg quarterbacks. Well, you know why? There's no punishment for running around and just hucking the ball around except for interceptions. Because generally you're not going to, players aren't going to get blindsided in the middle of the field like they used to. I mean, you could never throw a emergency room ball in the middle of the field, 15, 20 years ago, because your receiver would get their head blown off.
Rodney Harrison,
yeah,
Adrian
oh,
Phillips,
sure.
guys like that. Adrian Wilson.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Adrian Wilson was another guy that would just hammer people when they go across the middle. Absolutely.
And same thing playing the quarterback position. Like, you're running outside the pocket with a sense of, well, kind of invincibility, sort of, because who the hell is going to touch you? So you're going to get a lot of these players that, make these crazy athletic plays. Well, because the game's far more open. So yeah, you're going to see that. It's not, and this goes back to this conversation we've been having about this quarterback, this perception of, oh, we're in this age of these quarterbacks are just so much better than before. And I'm like, they may be more athletic, John, and I'll give them that, I guess. But and as we've talked about for what feels like forever, athleticism doesn't equal great quarterback play. Great quarterback play is so much more than just physical traits, and I think people unfortunately just judge this stuff based on fantasy football numbers, and it gets the commentary to now we're using the word cyborg to describe quarterbacks and out of structure and all these like buzzwords, and it's like it's really kind of meaningless, John. Like how like they're just empty words. And again, I mean, this is what we get when we have open defenses. And I know I'm kind of rambling here, but the big point here is these defenses are creating these the handicap defenses are creating these opportunities offensively for sure. And we're going to see, I think, higher scoring games. But basically, we're seeing athletic, fast players dominate this league right now. I mean, look at Miami. Look at Miami.
Oh, I mean, they've got like 5 guys that run sub 4.340, and they didn't even have Jalen Waddle on Sunday. Their second best wide receiver, who's a Pro Bowl caliber wide receiver, they didn't even have him. I mean, Tyreek Hill, we both agree. I'm not sure if he's the best wide receiver in football. He's the most impactful. He like just totally scares the hell out of the opposing defense, so that you're just so far backed up that it impacts the running game. I think part of the reason Miami can run the football is because the secondary is so back on its heels that, if you get by the line of scrimmage, it appears that those running backs are going to get 7, 8, 9 yards per carry at times. But yeah, there's so many great athletes playing that position at wide receiver. It's like all the basketball players are playing football now. The 6'1", 6'2", 6'3" guys who were probably going to be point guards, in basketball, they're now wide receivers in football, and they're really dominant.
Well, and again, I mean, when you have more open space to work with, I mean, it's going to create more opportunities where it's like, okay, um, a lot of quarterbacks take advantage of it, and rightfully so. I mean, they're going to dance around the sideline because they know a defender's scared to death to hit him. Because even if it's a clean hit, just the perception of a quarterback getting hit towards the sideline is going to give you a pretty good shot of getting a flag called. Let's be honest. I mean, that's the thing. It's not necessarily about whether or not it's a penalty. It's about the perception. And it's like, if you see a quarterback get hit on the sidelines, regardless of whether he's inbounds or out of bounds, well, if he's out of bounds, obviously it's a penalty. But if he's inbound, you're still going to, oh my God, how could they do that? Well, the quarterback's dancing around the sidelines. I mean, he can still make a play there, but unfortunately, it's not officiated there. So that's where I think we get a lot of, this quote unquote cyborg quarterback play, but also in turn, it props up a lot of mediocre quarterbacks. So we think like say a player has a really good season and you're like, oh, okay, this guy is the next, man, he's really, really good. And then he comes out and disappoints for a year or two. And you're like, wait a minute, what? I thought he was good. And it's like, no, it's just, I don't know. I maybe I'm just confused, John. I don't know. I just
You're
think
just angry. That's more like
well, bitter. I'm old.
You're still bitter. You're bitter because Tom Brady's not playing, and I'm bitter because Aaron Rodgers is playing. We have to get over it, Ian.
Maybe
next year Brady will come out of retirement, and Rodgers will come back. After listening to Dolphins mating and getting the healing process started for his Achilles.
So weird Dolphins, and I don't know.
Well, that could be a telltale sign the Dolphins are going to be tough to beat, though. Aaron Rodgers is even Dolphins.
Are you saying he blew out his Achilles on purpose so he didn't have to deal with the negative impact of not beating the Dolphins?
Right. Well, you know what? His legacy will grow this year as Zach Wilson continues to play quarterback, right? So if the Jets go 3-14, maybe Aaron Rodgers will get some MVP votes.
He'll get hype, but trust me, it's funny you brought this up because I that thought crossed my, kind of like a ha-ha moment in my head. I was just like, watch what's going to happen. He's going to get like hypothetical credit for like success the Jets don't have this season. Like, well, look at them. If it wasn't Zach Wilson, the Jets would have been 14-3 and probably and all of a sudden they'll chalk that up into what is become a very muddy, blended situation, and that is trying to discern reality from what ifs with Aaron Rodgers, because I think some really diehard of Rodgers fans have kind of conflated the two at times. So yeah, it's funny you bring that up. Yeah, well, Kyle's right. He's definitely probably going to still have better MVP consideration than Russell Wilson. Although, John, if it continues to be, hampered by Sean, I'll switch my tune on Russell Wilson and go pro Russell Wilson if it means anti Sean Payton, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, neither one of these guys is very likable. One appears to be very phony, and Russell Wilson and Sean Payton just appears to be an a-hole, just from the outside looking in, right? And my question to him would be, you knocked Nathaniel Hackett.
Yeah.
What's happened to your defense, which is a top 5 defense last year? And the last 2 weeks, you gave up, 103 points or some god-awful number? Like, what's happened to your defense? I know you're not a defensive guy, but you're still the head coach of the team. What's gone wrong with your defense? You want to trash Nathaniel Hackett, who obviously was a disaster last year, and we see what he is as an offensive coordinator with Aaron Rodgers. By the way, I got to prop up my guy just a little bit. Aaron Rodgers has won 4 MVPs, 2 with Nathaniel Hackett as his offensive coordinator, and 1 with Joe Philbin as his offensive coordinator. So, there's that.
Well, it's good for him. I mean, that 2001 MVP, I will still, like I said, I'm going to put it on my gravestone.
I shouldn't have said anything to get you going, but
Niagara
my
Falls.
Theory.
Slowly.
I got to stop you before you go too far. But my theory on Tom Brady, that there's a lot of people that should give up 10% of their net worth to Tom Brady because he made them a lot of money and made them famous, from Robert Kraft to Bill Belichick to Charlie Weiss to Josh McDaniels to Billy O'Brien, and
there's people on TV and on radio right now that probably should have found different work if it weren't for Tom Brady. Like, I mean, let's be
right.
let's be honest. There's a cottage industry of trashing Brady out there. You can make a reputation for that, for yourself with that. I mean,
and there's former teammates of his that are on TV who are pretty good at it, right? Like I think Teddy Bruschi's good,
sure,
but he's on there because he's good, and I shouldn't use him as an example because I think he is really good. But a lot of those former Patriots are on there because they won a lot of Super Bowls.
Mm-hmm.
What happened? And the biggest reason they won a lot of Super Bowls was, who?
Well, exactly. But
I gave you guy a lot of props.
Yeah, well, it's easy. It's easy when you win 7 Super Bowls. I mean, let's be honest here. No, look, it is. It is a bit disappointing to to have that. Well, actually, before I get to this point, think about this: Nathaniel Hackett, Denver, thinks he's getting Aaron Rodgers. Rug pulled out from under him. Goes to Jets, gets Aaron Rodgers, still gets the rug pulled out from under him. Poor guy. But you know what? Again, at least for him, he's I don't. He just needs to keep his mouth shut, and his reputation is going to take a shine, especially if Denver continues to struggle and Sean Payton. And Kyle brings up a great point. Wilson finally scored 20 points, and his defense allowed 70.
Right, because that was the thing last year. If he could get to 20, they'd win.
It's
really good.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of having the rug pulled out from under us, this is the third time in 5 years that Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes are supposed to face each other head to head. And in 2019, Mahomes injured his knee the week before, missed the game. Green Bay won at Kansas City. 2 years later, Green Bay at Kansas City, and 5 days before the game, Rodgers tested positive for COVID, missed that game, and now this is the Sunday night game, right? Chiefs at Jets. Supposed to be Aaron Rodgers hosting Patrick Mahomes, and of course Rodgers gets hurt before the season. I guess it's never meant to be that these two guys face each other. They played on Conference Championship Sunday a couple of times, and they couldn't somehow connect at any point.
Another legacy-saving move by Aaron Rodgers. I'll give them that. So
there's been a lot for Patrick Mahomes, right? Yeah.
Look, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, okay, we can, everyone, when you think about it, actually realistically and not with some sort of blinders on, anything compared to Brady right now, it's just ridiculous. So it's kind of silly to even bring it up, but that's the nature of this business, and that's how people judge it. So yeah, we'll sit there and judge Aaron Rodgers and very harshly. And look, I mean, quite frankly,
and I'm his big supporter. Yeah.
Do I think they win any of those games head to head? Probably, if they're both healthy. I don't know. I don't think so.
The games are in Kansas City, which
and that's part of it too.
Year, doesn't it? Doesn't it seem like Kansas? Well, actually, this Sunday night game would be at the Meadowlands. Once again, the incredible stupidity of having the Giants and Jets play on the same weekend. The Jets are playing Sunday night. The Giants are playing Monday night. What the hell are the Giants doing on Monday Night Football? This is the third primetime game of the year. The most boring team in the
New York.
To watch, but it is the biggest market. Yeah,
it's New York.
I get it.
Yeah, I mean
they're still a big brand.
Exactly. Yeah. That's pretty much all it is. And I don't know. It's yeah. It is. We have to live with Daniel Jones. That's what it is. That's what it is. I mean I mean, let's be honest. We just got to suck it up and deal with it. So. Or, and talk about New York, but look, before we go, and we'll be back on Thursday because we like to take hump day off. Wednesday, nice.
State workers, we take the middle of the week off.
Yeah. We have to rest, recharge. We're both old. You're older than me, but hey, we're getting there. The nut punch heard around the world. Look, I think it's kind of silly, first of all, that people are making any sort of big deal about something that we don't even know what happened. And secondly, I think it's even funnier when immediately preceding the quote unquote video, we get a belly to belly suplex on Mac Jones into the ground after the whistle. No one cares. And then for whatever reason, Sauce Gardner decided to make a beeline towards Mac Jones to slap his hand while he was on the ground. And people are looking at still images, like grainy still images of terrible angles, and saying, like, remember when it first came out, he said he grabbed him. And first of all, there's no way he, first of all, grabbed him. So that, throw that out the window. And now it's like people are analyzing this this silly video that, like, I mean, have you ever heard what goes on under the pile? So if, like, he happened to graze his region, what's the big deal, John? I mean, like, what's going on here?
Well, he does have a reputation.
Well, no. Hold on. He has a reputation because of whiny, over the top overreaction like this. Like, I mean, that's the silly thing.
The like, Eli Apple hit was gross.
Oh, okay.
The Eli Apple hit last year was horrible. His own teammates and his own team wasn't happy about that.
One hit.
The Brian Burns grab.
Okay, hold on. No. See, the Brian Burns grab, he fumbles and he's trying to grab the guy going for the fumble. Yeah, I'm not going to sit there and say that he's trying to injure him, or it's like the slide. The guy's sliding and the defender's going in the same direction. He's not trying to like. That's what I'm saying, John. And we see this. We see this all the time, not just with Mac Jones, but to a lot of other players. It's like people will cite a reputation, but that reputation is based on previous kind of whining and over the top from people in the media. And we're getting the barrage right now from the New York folks because, well, Mac Jones should be suspended, this, that, and the other. It's like, he has a reputation. Well, it's a reputation you created by your kind of over the top silly reaction. And a lot of it's just attention grabbing. So again, do I think Mac Jones is a dirty player? No. Do you want to sit here and criticize the Eli Apple hit? Sure, go ahead. But like, there's also video of Travis Kelce taking a football directly to the groin of a Patriots player in the huddle, standing up, and no one's sitting there saying, "Oh, well, Travis Kelce has a reputation for being dirty." It's all about perception, and in a lot of cases, it's.
He's just Mac Jones is becoming the Patrick Beverly or Danny Ainge of the NFL. It's just one of those guys I think that other teams don't like, and that could work in your advantage. Although you kind of want your quarterback to be above that. Like, I don't like the quarterback getting involved with that. That's what the linemen are there for, to protect him.
No, but I mean, like,
get into the fray.
Let's face it. If there's anything dirty or below board that happened yesterday, it's probably, like I said, a defensive lineman taking a quarterback and slamming him to the ground, which we know is a big no-no in this day and age. And that happened. But
was people still moving on that, though?
No, I mean,
a situation where he was still trying to.
Regardless, though, I mean, how many times can you take a quarterback and whip him to the ground?
You should never do that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Anymore. So regardless, I mean, I think it was after the whistle. I'm pretty sure it was after the whistle. Mm-hmm. But regardless of when it happened, it's still something that. And look, no one's running to Twitter saying, "Oh my God, this is dirty. I can't believe he did this." Blah 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 blah. It's like, no, they're more concerned about a potential nut check, like what
a Fruiter film.
That's what's happening right now. We're sitting there looking at this like grainy footage that I love it because whenever we have something like this, we go back 30 years and we have like camcorder footage from like we all have cell phones with like 4K camera capability, but we're like zooming in on this like grainy footage, and that's how silly it is, John. If you have to go to that lengths to, I mean, not even give anything definitively at all, just if anything, maybe it was incidental contact as he was getting up because, well, Sauce Gardner decided he wanted to come crowd him after he was on the ground. It's like, come on, folks, like, relax. I understand you it's easy to hate. Like, I understand, like, Mac's kind of like that guy you can kind of like pick on, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
He's kind of goofy looking and yeah. I don't know. And of course, the whole Patriot. Yeah, sure. I mean,
Alabama to the Patriots.
Well,
I mean, my board.
Exactly. I mean, how he's not necessarily starting off with some a lot of credibility there in terms of oh well, he's a good it's Alabama and it's the Patriots, so it's easy to hate. So anyways, we went this whole show without making any stupid pop culture references. I want to tell you that, by the way.
I'm proud of you.
I'm so happy because I'm just I'm so sick. I don't care. I just don't. Like, I don't need every other segment on NFL Network talking about you know who and you know who. Like, I just don't care. Like, we get it, sold a lot of jerseys, but I'll leave it at that. Anyways, no, Kyle. No, I am not. And I'm not even going to elaborate on what he asked. You can look at it in the footage if you're listening. If not, use your imagination. Anyways, moving into week 4, like you said, got a couple big matchups, which, Chiefs Jets would have been bigger, but hey, it is what it is. Still, if you're a Chiefs fan, you want to see them beat up. I think on a team that I just don't think is any good. Like John, what's who has the better defense right now? Patriots or the Jets?
We'll know more Sunday because the Patriots are playing Dallas, which would be a common opponent. Yep. I think probably about the same. I mean, it almost looks like the Jets have lost a little pride at this point. Like after the fourth play of the season.
Well, I think coming into
this season,
I
think that's part of it.
I'd say coming into the season, though, it was pretty heavily in favor of the Jets. So I think we're seeing that kind of play out over the first few weeks. That I mean, the Jets are good, but it also kind of feels like they're just the same old Jets, which makes sense.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they really are. They're the longest playoff drought of any team in the 4 major sports for a reason. They're incompetent. That was supposed to be alleviated somewhat with Aaron Rodgers being there to at least be competitive, maybe make the playoffs, what have you. So that's not going to happen. Yeah, I mean, the defenses are pretty comparable at this point because Sauce Gardner's gone off to a really good start, and they're not a real creative defense. They kind of just play their thing, whereas the Patriots are a complex defense that can really confuse younger, inexperienced quarterbacks. We see that with Zach Wilson every time they play. So, yeah, I mean, the defenses are, I would say, probably at this point, pretty comparable.
Yeah, and I do think it's the Patriots is actually getting better. I mean, they were injured in the secondary last week, and but to your point, I think playing the Cowboys, obviously. Well, actually, I don't know, John. What Cowboys team are we going to get?
True. Is the offensive line going to be healthy for Dallas? Tyron Smith, who's a wonderful player, who doesn't seem to be able to play like 4 games in a row.
Well, we even
had some injuries on that line.
We even during those first 2 weeks, we said, I mean, they're looking like world beaters, but their offense still hasn't really impressed that much, and they certainly didn't last week. So, it's going to be definitely a tougher test for sure, no doubt about it. But, I think that loss to the Cardinals, and give credit to the Cardinals, and you said it yesterday, they're certainly not playing to tank, and you got to give Jonathan Gannon and that team credit for that. But maybe Dallas isn't, or just like we said, same old Jets. Maybe it's the same old Dallas. They're going to have moments throughout every season where it's like, oh my God, they are, clearly the best team. There's no way that their championship game drought can extend another 20 years. And guess what? It does. And maybe that's where we're at right now. We're at that stage of the season where I think we kind of, snap back to reality and realize, oh, okay, Dallas is Dallas. This is what they do every year. So I it's going to be a tough test, no doubt about it. Tougher than the Jets for sure. But I'll be curious to see which Dallas team actually shows up. And I think the Patriots could have a lot to do with what team shows up. I mean, this is not, maybe it's not a coincidence, but they lose Trayvon Diggs in practice that week, and then all of a sudden, you look at the Cowboys, and are they as formidable in the secondary? Well, good thing they have Stephon Gilmore, but bad thing is Stephon Gilmore is 34 years old. So, he's not a guy that's going to be your lockdown number 1 corner. He would have been much better as a complimentary guy like they brought him in to be. So, and then, of course, I mean, is Brandon Cooks ever going to be healthy on offense? I don't know. If he is healthy, he's good for 1,000 yards, but he missed last week, and I don't know if he's going to be in this week. But either way, I will be interested to see how that kind of all plays out, especially for the Patriots, but also for the Cowboys, because are you going to be a serious contender? Because right now, despite being 1-2, the Patriots have played really good defense, and when you consider the Dolphins just put up 70 yards, 70 yards, John, 736 yards and 70 points. You
That's
look
more
back.
amazing than the points, to be honest with you. The amount of yards they put up.
Well, yeah.
Because they didn't have a defensive touchdown. That's impressive too. Like sometimes you see a lot of points.
Well, but like I said, then I look back at that still frame that I saw someone post on Twitter of every defensive player just laying on the ground and just daylight for 60 yards, and I'm like, what the hell, It's, you know what I mean? It was like one of those end zone celebrations where someone spikes the ball and everyone just falls over at the same time. That's what it looked like, and I was just like, that
was an ode. Yeah, that was an ode to Albert Hainsworth.
Yeah, yes. Now that's the name I have not heard in a
no. Nor would you want to hear.
Yeah, no, definitely not. But anyways, that's going to do it for us here today. We'll be back, like I said, on Thursday. So everyone enjoy Tuesday and Wednesday, your football-free evenings. And then we'll be back Thursday and have some fun then. So everyone, thank you. And we will talk to you